Put detailed graphics like these in your next foam project. Are you carving foam by hand and you struggle with some of those detailed graphics, or maybe you've even avoided really complex graphics because you just can't get the graphic onto the foam to be able to guide you for actually carving that really intricate piece like the two pieces you see down here? Well, let me show you a technique that I have come up with that allows you to take thermal transfers and actually transfer those ink transfers into the foam itself. Now let's go over the basics of how this process actually works. So if you've ever gotten a tattoo before, you maybe have had a tattoo artist that has used a ink transfer sheet that they'll put on your skin that actually leaves a temporary design of what they're actually tattooing on your body, on your skin as a guide so that they get the graphics right when they actually apply the tattoo and put the ink into your skin. Well, using those same transfers that a tattoo artist use, you can actually take these transfers and actually transfer them to the foam using a special solution that I've come up with that allows for the right amount of moisture to be applied to the foam and actually allow for the ink to transfer to the foam like you see here. Now, if you go to maker86.com, you will find a moisture catalyst there. It is the foam tattoo line transfer catalyst. This is the product that you need to be able to get a controlled moisture catalyst to ultimately transfer your graphics in the clearest and crispest way you possibly can. Now, results do vary when applying the moisture catalyst to where you might get a little bit of bleed here and there, but this solution is specifically designed to get you the best results when applying your transfers to your foam. Now, let's go over the tools and supplies needed to complete this project. You're going to need the stencils that you're going to actually transfer to the foam. You're going to need paper towels. You're going to need a means of a timer. Then you're also going to need the foam tattoo transfer catalyst kit, which comes with the transfer catalyst itself, the actual sprayer that goes on the bottle, and then also a 2-inch foam brush. This foam brush is reusable, but if you do need to replace it, this is just a standard painter's foam brush that you would find at your local hardware store. Now, let's get to actually making the transfer. All right, let's get into applying the transfer to the foam. What we're going to do first is we're going to set aside the transfers that we're going to end up using. We do not want to get these wet until we actually apply these to the foam because any moisture will activate the ink that is in that stencil. So we want to set them aside in a dry area until we're ready to use it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our transfer catalyst, or foam tattoo transfer catalyst, and what we're going to do is we're going to first shake it up. And we're going to shake it up good. This is extremely important to do before every use, is to shake up the transfer catalyst because it does have a tendency to separate and potentially gel in the bottle, but if you shake it back up, it will reactivate and turn back into a liquid form. The nozzle itself, the spray nozzle, does have a locking mechanism, so make sure you flip the little lock on the underside of it 90 degrees to either side, and that will unlock the nozzle itself. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to apply the moisture catalyst to the foam to allow the moisture to soak in for about a minute. Then we're going to wipe it off and then actually reapply the moisture catalyst to the foam, and then actually use the foam brush to flatten out or even out the liquid on the surface and then apply the transfer. So let's apply the moisture catalyst to the foam and then wait for a 1 minute period. All right, now let's grab a paper towel and let's wipe off the surface of the foam to wipe off all the moisture, the transfer catalyst that was applied. right. So we've wiped that off. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to apply, again, the transfer catalyst to the foam. But this time, instead of letting it sit, what we're going to do is we're going to take the foam brush after we apply the transfer catalyst and smooth out the surface and then apply the transfer. So get your transfer ready. You're going to actually apply it in this step. So we're going to apply then the moisture catalyst again, making sure that we get at least mostly consistent over the surface. We're then going to lightly use the foam brush to smooth out the transfer catalyst. And then what we're going to do is we're going to apply the transfer to the actual foam itself. Now, when you apply this to the foam, you might notice that you have like where the ink is and it's supposed to be blue. It should look like a dark royal blue. If the ink does not, what you can do is you can take the residual moisture that was on your foam brush and brush over the top of the ink areas to make sure you get a consistent navy blue or royal blue over those areas, and that will guarantee that your ink is moist enough. If you do have an area that you just can't get moist enough, you can apply another spray of the moisture catalyst on the outside of the paper to actually apply just a little bit more moisture. Just be careful when you do that because you can over moisturize the actual paper itself. And then what you're going to want to do is wait for 2.5 minutes. Now, in the midst of that 2.5 minutes, what you can do is you can rinse out your foam brush. Just go to a sink, run water, rinse your brush out, and then make sure that you ultimately squeeze it out when it's done and let it dry, or have an extra brush available if you have more than one piece of foam that you want to actually apply transfers to. All right, we're now 2.5 minutes later, and we're going to actually remove the stencil from the foam. The reason why we wait 2.5 minutes is it ultimately gives time for the ink to soak into the foam itself. All right, what we're going to do is just pull up the transfer, and you'll see that we'll have a nice, clean transfer. Now, if you want to try and reuse your stencil, you can. There is no guarantee that it will be usable a second time. I have seen in testing and with some user testing the ability for people to reuse these stencils. Now, I don't know about drying them out and reusing them. I know when they were reused, it was reused in a very short period of time, like they were passing from one person to the next. And specifically what they were using is like the cracks. They would apply a crack to a piece of foam and then pass it off to the next user, and then they would apply it to a piece of foam. So anyways, if you're not going to use it again, you can discard it. And there you go. Actually applying a ink transfer to the foam. Now I have a guide to actually carve this piece of foam and carve that artwork into the foam itself. Now, there are written instructions for this process on wiki.malamaker.org. You can go there and actually see a specific page around the foam tattooing line and specifically around applying the transfer to the foam, and then also information on making your own transfers. To purchase any of the products on the foam tattooing product line, you can visit Maker 86 Industries website at maker86.com, and in the store you can find a whole product line around the foam tattooing products. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I'm MalaMaker, and happy making.